comes out, even if it doesn't find a victim, the pressure that it exerts on the game just by sitting on the bench is, you can just see the shock wave ripple out from the table across the entire audience. They go, oh man, that B though.
Yeah. Ian's deck says, I'm very consistent. I have Arceus, I will charge up Pokemon. Do you play basic Pokemon? I win. I have Flying Pikachu. Do you play a water Pokemon with lightning weakness? I win. I have Flying Pikachu. Do you like special energies? I win. I have Beedrill. So you can tell that he definitely put a lot of thought into the build, and I'm very excited to see if it can keep the consistency when you start to add in all of these different attackers.
Yeah, that was part of the reason that Arceus had its great downfall, is you were enjoying the Star Birth and the energy acceleration, and you got tempted. Oh, I can cut this and tech against that. I'm consistent. I'm still consistent. And eventually, we just had these really monstrous bricks where Arceus was too slow to get off the starting line, wasn't finding the techs it needed for the matchup, was getting exploited, wasn't able to properly defend itself. But now we'll see in this new metagame if Ian Robb has kind of cut the chaff, included just the right amount of tech for the current meta, and it will pay off here in the first game. The players are getting their prizes put down. Charon's Care and Arceus V-Star in the prizes. Nothing too terrible, it looks like. Meanwhile, Calvin losing out on a Collapse Stadium, a Boss, a Marnie, and Arceus. That's actually pretty good prizing in my opinion. The Boss and the Collapse Stadium are something you maybe want to come to you a little bit later on in the game regardless. And now players do have their active Pokemon selected. No mulligans here. We are going on all cylinders. Starmie V in the active versus Sobble.
Well, when Ian sees this, he goes, oh, goody, more Palkia. And I don't know if he knows what he's playing against, and it'll be fun to see maybe his reaction if we saw a card like Arceus come down here.
Just going to go for the Ultra Ball, discarding 2 Water Energy, not attaching to the Starmie V just yet. Calvin just was about to attach and reconsidered, right? You want to take a little bit of a closer look at what the deck is offering you first off, maybe seeing what Ian Robb is on before you fully commit that to Starmie V as your true attacker for this position here at the start of the game.
Yeah, always good to sequence as best as possible. That energy attachment is just once per turn, so including it at the end of the turn, if you don't have anything else that happens in your hand, seems to make the most sense. Calvin now just debating what the best line is here. Sobble seems to make a lot of sense. Drizzile is in hand, even though it goes against every fiber in your being to not play an Arceus down on turn 1. But the hand just says this is correct.
Yeah, if you at least have something you can attack with, you feel good. That was certainly one thing that the Arceus decks really struggled with. If they weren't able to open up with it and get that evolution, or if their opponent was exploiting their fighting weakness, you had really nothing to pivot to. So Starmie V just chilling in the active and just putting some extra threat potential on Ian Robb. And as you said, Kyle, there is still the chance that Ian's like, oh, but what if this is a Palkia deck, changes the sequencing, goes for a different line in order to beat that.
Well, Ian's got a nice, easy turn for himself here. Just the boss's orders, bring up the Sobble and use some keep calling, get some additional Sobbles in play, and it's not pretty. It doesn't seem fairly optimal, but you know, given the hand structure, maybe this is just correct too. Drizzile is a great way to get yourself throughout the rest of the mid game. But when you're in this early game and you just have Drizziles and no Arceus, this feels really weird.
When we saw this Inteleon engine go up against Palkia, Palkia just came out of the gate swinging this like slower setup of I can get the tools and resources I want to build a foundation was not fast enough. It just got completely dismantled, and Ian Robb is very glad to see that Calvin doesn't have a Palkia in play. But again, he doesn't know that it's an Arceus deck that his opponent has brought.
Huzzah!
And it means that this Inteleon setup is going to just pay huge dividends as we move into the later rounds. As soon as these Drizziles start hitting, this beautiful cascade, this crescendo of value ends up coming through, and you just get so many cards thinned out of the deck, so many resources added to the hand. Calvin now with the Professor's Research, discarding the hand, has the Arceus now, finally hitting the bench, showing his true colors to Ian Robb.
Probably one of the best top decks that he could have found there in that Ultra Ball, just being able to search out that Arceus V, and then he already had the Drizzile. Just plays the one of Professor's Research, but that's going to be enough right now to salvage what looked to be a slow start. Instead now, Calvin with an opportunity to get down an energy on this Arceus V, and that did not seem like something that could have happened last turn.
Oh, but wait, reconsiders once again. Calvin Connor champing at the bit here. Really excited to get into this game and start attacking. You can tell wants to be aggressive in this matchup and has to hold himself back from attaching these energies before the rest of the turn has properly played out, as you said, Kyle. Fully assessing the situation before you commit.
Yeah, when you've been on stream as much as Calvin has and you play in all of these high-level events where all of your friends are watching, maybe that's just a word of wisdom that they've shared with him is, hey, you're playing too fast, man. Relax. Let's make sure we get that ordering right. And he's caught himself a couple times now. And we like to see that. The evolution, even when you're at the peak of your game, you're playing even just that 1% better.
Scoop up net, pulls that Sobble back, rebench the Sobble, and Arceus V now in the active. You got to remember Calvin has that double turbo, is trying to set up here for a Trinity charge, maybe put energy down on this Starmie V. Calvin sees the lightning energy on this Sobble and knows that something's coming. So it's going to be another really big, risky gamble for Calvin if he wants to commit to this Starmie V. Do I want to have a backup attacker? Do I want to power this up and maybe bait Ian into playing another boss's order to pull this up to KO?
We'll see what Connor is. He's going to go ahead and get these energies, of course, charged up with the Arceus V. He has a secondary attacker and maybe is considering how many energies to play down. Maybe other people are onto the Starmie techs, but the placement is more important. And the energy attachment to the active, Ian starts shuffling his hand very quickly. If he has Beedrill, that's a really nice cash-in option right there.
Oh, yeah, having the special energy attached means that that Persist Sting will be able to get that beautiful, no holds barred, no questions asked knockout on the Arceus. So now Level Ball is hitting the scene. Ian Robb has a beautiful engine. When you're sitting across from your opponent and they have the Sobbles and they're just kind of doing their thing over there, but you have your Arceus set up, it gives you this interesting texture to the matchup where your opponent has lots of tools, but you in turn have the ability to set up multiple potential threats to pivot into once your active Pokemon goes down. And we've seen this sort of cascade happen over and over, where as soon as the first Arceus goes down, it doesn't matter because two other main attackers from the deck are already prepped and ready to go on the bench. But Ian Robb now finding his own Arceus V.
Combos!
And the combo finds the mustard, puts the Beedrill down, and after you search your deck for a single strike Pokemon, put it immediately onto the bench, no evolution required, you then get to draw cards to refill your hand as well to take advantage of this massive swing that just occurred.
Yeah, Ian did not want to use the Ordinary Rod, but had to get a card out of his hand. Ends up taking the Grass Energy, shuffling it back in. That is going to remove 2 outs in Training Court, but maybe could find the raw Grass Energy here, or potentially Evolution Incense. That can lead to a big open window with Drizzile into potential Energy Search.
The Energy Search is going to be huge here. We've seen, it's funny, whenever we saw Beedrill first come out, it looked really strong, and then it ended up becoming very inconsistent because you have to find how many mustard do I include, how many Beedrill do I include, how many Grass Energy do I include, and everything is coming through for Ian Robb here. Even though that Grass Energy went in, it was able to still find the proper attachment, and 2 prizes go to Ian Robb for his trouble.
That Persist Sting is so powerful. And honestly, you think as a player with all these water energies, maybe I'll be able to work out a situation where this Beedrill just isn't effective, but you can't afford to play that slow. You have to play these double turbo energies early, and you have to continue to try to bring threats into the active spot, or else this deck will just set up a Flying Pikachu and start doing work. Use that Arceus and do really big damage, and Connor just has to walk into it that time.
Yeah, with the main attacker down, nothing else fully charged up yet to take over Ian Robb is now in a very powerful position because now even if Calvin is able to struggle, jump through some hoops, set up another Pokemon that can swing back on this Beedrill, you're still only taking one prize. And then the prize trade starts to get out of hand and outside of your favor, and Ian Robb can capitalize on that with the Flying Pikachu.
Yeah, Ian being able to use this early Beedrill, not having to use terribly too many resources. We didn't see the second Beedrill hit the discard pile, which is huge. That means that if this double turbo comes down, there is a bench space open. There is an Arceus V in play right now that has not, there is no Arceus V-Star with Starbirth being used from Ian's side. That opens up the window for another Mustard to come down and another Beedrill to happen. That is the nightmare for Calvin, and he is definitely considering that right now with his play.
Yeah, if your opponent cannot use the double turbo, has to take a couple extra turns to attach. But Calvin calls it out, says, you know, I'm going to take down this Beedrill. I have to trust that you can't put together another one so soon, so quickly, and get the Trinity charge, the Trinity Nova, so you can attach those energies and get another Pokemon ready to go and keep attacking. That is really the name of the game when it comes to any Arceus deck, is that once you do get properly set up, it's very hard for your opponent to disrupt the fact you have an attacker every single turn.
Calvin Connor has to throw away the Inteleon with the quick ball, and that's really unfortunate. Did not want to lose that, but Path Marnie is so crucial to potentially locking Ian out in a situation like this that you have to hold on to the resources there. You just need to get the Arceus down. Hopefully you don't draw into too many waters here, and you get another attacker charged up by way of your Arceus V-Star and this knockout on the Beedrill.
4 cards now in hand for Ian Robb. Hopefully it's enough. Hopefully there's the right mixture here to come back after that Beedrill goes down. It had so much pressure and did so much work when it hit, but Ian Robb has to find another attacker, has to find another threat. If you promote this Sobble, then you're just saying to your opponent, I just have to buy some time for myself. I'm going to sacrifice 1 or 2 single prize Pokemon to get enough time to get my Arceus V-Star down, find a stadium to bump this Path to the Peak Ultra Ball, discarding a Flying Pikachu, has to go searching for something else.
Yep, ideally, you can get that Arceus V-Star or an Inteleon to start using your Shady Dealings. Set up a situation where you're in a flawless spot where you can use that training court, get that down, lock that Path to the Peak out, then you use your Starbirth ability, and you can almost make the perfect turn with that Beedrill once again. Ian is going to try to map this out and see if it can happen. It's a lot to ask from your deck, but if any deck can do it, it's going to be this Arceus Inteleon.
Yeah, it makes miracles happen. The Inteleon engine, supports us all in our darkest hour. And here comes Shady Dealings. Inteleon finds the Mustard and can get one more card, the Scoop Up Net. The pieces are coming together once again. Calvin Connor has a massive target dangling in the active with that double turbo energy. We'll see if we can find the next Beedrill to come into the active and take another key KO, putting Ian Robb down to 2 prizes. Still more work needs to be done. Has the training court now off of the Shady Dealings Inteleon being recycled with the Scoop Up Net. So has a bump for the Path to the Peak at the very least. Maybe can get the Starbirth here to find the missing pieces. It's coming together, Kyle.
Yeah, you can start to see it. It's happening. The air balloon is already in hand as well, so that means that the free retreat into the Beedrill is going to be live. The training court coming down means that Beedrill will have an energy regardless of what these 5 cards look like, and all we're missing is that the last card being a single strike Mustard, and I think we're going to see it.
There it is. Training court air balloon attachment. The single strike Mustard finds the Beedrill. Training court's ability allows you to pull an energy card from the discard pile back to your hand. We can find that grass energy attached to the Beedrill, and Ian Robb is closing in on a beautiful combo for another knockout on Arceus V-Star and taking 2 more prizes.
If you told me turn 3, Ian Robb would have 4 prize cards taken with 2 Beedrills and not use Starbirth, I'd say, are you kidding me?
Ian Robb space jammed all the other Beedrill players. For every Beedrill brick that had happened earlier in the season, it's been just putting it in the bank for Ian Robb to cash it in here for 2 back-to-back Beedrill combos. and is closing in on a very easy victory. There's so many single prize Pokemon in play right now that Ian Robb can promote to buy even more time to put together another devastating combo. And Calvin Connor has been put to the screws, is struggling to actually get another threat, but still manages to do it. Has the water energy, has the Melanie to attach another with a little bit of card draw, so this Beedrill will go down just like his brother, but that's still only 2 prizes for Calvin.
Yeah, so much work being done by Calvin just to get into a situation like this, having to make use of that training court. It's very good read there, understanding, hey, that's also for me. I can use that too. I don't need to go and find one of the final double turbos to get this going. I can use your stadium there and get myself in a perfect situation, take the knockout here on this Beedrill. And over on the other side, Ian doesn't have an attacker ready to go. He's been focused on Beedrills every single turn. Maybe this is an opportunity where you can catch him sleeping.
Beautiful. Evolution Incense finding the Shady Dealies in Teleon. And now there's a little bit of a decision here, right? You have the potential to use that Trinity Nova, power up your next attacker. Are you going to be looking at Aqua Bullet because of all these single prize Pokemon, or do you want to just bring out the Starmie, maybe get a heavy hitter trying to counter this Arceus? It's really hard to say. I think that going for spread damage could be pretty cheeky.
Yeah, with the prize count being 2 left for Ian, maybe this is an opportunity where you could see those plays where Arceus does take a big hit, and then you work in that Sharon's Care. You can heal yourself back up, bring up an Inteleon, and then work that one prize Pokemon in, make Ian take all 7 prizes in a game, and that's where you can start to come back from being down this deep, because Beedrill is definitely putting in a ton of work.
Even at the end of the day, Beedrill can still deal damage with its Jet Spear, so it's not just a one-trick pony where if I don't have special energy, I'm immune. It can still do a little bit of work, soften up a target for the Arceus to maybe come through and deal that final 200 damage or 180, whatever it needs.
If I'm throwing away my whole hand and playing grass energies in my deck, I better be taking knockouts. That's all I'm saying.
And I like how Ian Robb has put on such a devastating offense, and we have seen hide nor hair of Flying Pikachu. We've only seen, if we had not seen that lightning energy earlier, like, you wouldn't even know.
Yeah, it could have been Zeraora. It could have been Raikou V. Who knows?
But still, Calvin putting together the pieces. We said that the Inteleon engine can work miracles for Ian Robb, and that is certainly true for Calvin Connor. When you're down, you still have the Inteleon and the Drizziles working for you. Takes the knockout on the Beedrill, and now can take 1 prize, and hopefully it's something useful.
Well, for Ian, you start thinking, how does a deck accelerate energies if it doesn't play waters and you can't use that Melanie? And sure enough, right in the hand is that Raihan. That's a perfect way to get some energies accelerated in this game. Going to go ahead and get that onto the Arceus. And we see the double turbo in hand too. So maybe going to be able to set up something nice here. It's probably going to take 2 turns to close out, but definitely you see that Starmie V and you go, hey, I could remove that from play maybe.
Yeah, everything is coming together for Ian Robb to close out this game. Has the air balloon on the Sobble, can retreat that back. Arceus V-Star now hitting the stage. Training Court is in play, so that means that Starbirth is also available for Ian Robb to cash it in, find the missing pieces of this puzzle, but just goes for the quick knockout.
A beautiful play here by Ian, just going with the 1 energy as opposed to 2. You don't want to walk into anything awkward with the Starmie V with too many energies on board. You already have the Big Charm protecting yourself, but obviously Ian is probably eyeing up a Sharon's Care in this position, or trying to find a really nice retreat, double turbo, boss's orders, take that Starmie and move to game 2.
That is the way this is certainly going to hash out. I can't see this late in the game especially, right? Players very often use that Starbirth immediately to put together that Beedrill combo, but just having it come naturally to you, and now you have it to find your finishing combo is so strong. And now Ian Robb just going for the Sharon's Care, scooping up that Arceus, getting it out of the way, getting some of that damage cleansed off of it. And it's just so devastating for Calvin. When you're trying to fight back, trying to set up a 2-turn KO and Sharon's Care interrupts that, makes you basically skip your turn. That's going to be just so much damage coming down. Can Calvin Connor even protect this Arceus at this point? Ian Robb, I think with one more boss in the deck scrolling through right now.
Yeah, Ian's checking the discard pile and saying, do I care about Starmie? maybe this training court just sticks. I have guaranteed energy for next turn, and I'm hitting for 200 damage with Arceus V-Star into a Starmie V. That could work out just fine. You're not really worried if the Starmie V comes active and takes a knockout then. It also means that maybe you're not worried about this Arceus V-Star with all the damage on board right now. Connor's used a lot of resources to get to this spot. Calvin using the Sharon's Care, a Pal Pad early too. So just the resource count has to be getting lower and lower.
It's because Ian has just set up this massive buffer for himself in terms of prize trades that now you can take the final 2 at your leisure. Calvin doesn't have the option the way some other decks might to just, well, I only have single prize Pokemon in play, so I can artificially slow down how many turns it's going to take you to truly close out. And at this point, it's just going to come down to a boss's orders.
Well, Calvin's thinking, trying to figure out what the most optimal line is. There was a boss play on the Arceus. Going to go ahead and use the Roxanne instead, and I think this looks pretty nice. If there were a card like a Choice Belt, potentially you get a huge knockout here with the Starmie V on the active. It'd be a lot to ask of your deck, but maybe it owes you this after you've been working so hard. And on the other side, Ian has evolved a lot of his Inteleon line. Maybe it's going to be hard to find the way to draw into that very last Arceus V-Star and take a knockout. We already know the training court's going to stick around. The energies will be there, but are the Pokemon there for Ian?
2 cards for Ian. Calvin gets 6. And now with the with the ability to attack this turn, with quick shooting Inteleon making its appearance here, it means that if Ian did truly dead draw, this could be the turning point where Calvin somehow takes victory from the jaws of defeat. If Ian can't get that last little bit of damage that he needs to truly end the game.
Oh, 1 scoop up net would have been absolutely ridiculous. The Starmie could have come up, hit for 250, double quick shooting on the active, could have done amazing things. Instead, Calvin just has to play the hit points game, bring up this big Arceus V-Star, and try to hang on.
Has the boss, found it immediately, and that is going to be game 1 going to Ian Robb. So many close games, 10 damage off, 1 scoop up net, all you need to shift the tide of the game, and it comes up just a little bit too late there. But what a wild back and forth. The double B-Drill combo, and Calvin still able to put up somewhat of a fight. You know that these players are at the top of their game.
Yeah, that was phenomenal. when you have that much pressure and you're losing your main attacker every single turn, and you still almost find a way to come back on top, that's really impressive play by Calvin. And on the other side, Ian did exactly what he wanted to do. He understood the matchup. He knew, I don't need to worry about Flying Pikachu and trying to target down things. As soon as he saw Arceus, you could see the light switch going on, and he knew this is not going to be the game for that. I'm going to go sheer aggression with this Beedrill and try to close this out, and was able to do just that.
As we head into game 2, Calvin's now going to be prepared for that. The Beedrill is not going to be a surprise, so you can keep that double turbo in hand, maybe discard it with an Ultra Ball, just go for manual attachments, and maybe that's what Ian Robb is secretly hoping for. If my opponent sees the Beedrill, doesn't go for the extra acceleration of the double turbo energy, gives me an extra round or 2, turn or 2 to get set up, then Flying Pikachu can still take center stage. The the secondary attacker, main attacker, it's even hard to say. Yeah. After that strong showing, you don't even know who's the all-star of this deck. But suffice to say, Flying Pikachu VMAX, still a really big threat that Calvin Connor has to figure out how to deal with.
Yep, it definitely could make its appearance here. Guess important to note now is Calvin is playing 7 water energies, so if he did go for a strategy like that, likely that eventually he would run out of those water energies, just trying to manipulate that. It also slows down Sharon's care. You almost have to play into double turbo and just hope they don't have it.
Yeah, if you're Calvin, you're still thinking to yourself, like, back-to-back B-drill is so unlikely. I'm just going to stick to my guns, go for my double turbo, get my attacker set up with that beautiful Trinity Nova or Trinity Charge, and just trust the cards are going to fall in my favor.
Well, we see the prize cards for Ian. A lot of searching effects there in the opener. Some multiple quick ball, 2 grass energies. Maybe could slow the B down a little bit, and Sobble as well to boot. So not the worst, but definitely could make an impact here.
It's funny, when you play the B-drill, you're looking to use it for specific matchups, and that was the downfall of the B-drill tech. It was so spicy, such the hottest heat when it came down, because I got to tell you, the single strike mustard is one of the hypest things I think you could do in the current game. It's just so impactful when it comes down. And here it is in game 2. Even though Ian Robb misses out on the grass energy to take advantage of the B-drill, Calvin's missing out on Arceus.
Double Sobble, double Arc, Dunsparce start. What?
Oh my goodness. The things are not looking good for Calvin Connor. At the very least, he's going to take his first game. Not to mention this is after a mulligan, shaking his head, can read the prizes here, sees what's missing.
What's left? He's working with a two Arceus V, of course, maxing out to give himself optimal odds, but 2 is going to make this so tough.
When you're down on Sobbles, your scoop up nets become that much better. You know, you have to just keep cycling them over and over again. The hope here is that you can get enough value out of Sobble and Drizzile before Ian Robb also picks up on the fact that clearly you're running low on the Sobbles and maybe focuses on shutting them down, sniping them up. We've seen that come time and time again, where your line of play also clues in your opponent on what you have prized.
Yeah, definitely. And if you're not worried about a small line of Arceus piling up, maybe you just do target the bench and remove all of those ways to draw into all of your good cards. Because right now, Calvin doesn't have them. His hand is a load of situational cards that don't provide any impact right now, and a Marnie. So his turn is going to be fairly simple unless the top of his deck decides to start cooperating.
And it happened for Ian. It happened earlier with Natalie. And maybe it is Calvin's turn to just have some amazing draws back to back to back to salvage this really chaotic start. Dunsparce in the active. That Mysterious Nest is not going to do anything for this matchup. But here we go. Ultra Ball. Ian Robb still just chugging away. Even when you look across the table, you see your opponent had a really bad start. You still get to do whatever your deck wants to do. Oh, well, you know, sucks to be you. I have Sobbles. Let's go.
Yeah, you think from Calvin's perspective, he just looks over and goes, hey, I want to do that.
Sobble envy. You hate to see it.
This is what a great start. Double level ball, ultra ball, triple Sobble. Basically kept calling and didn't even have to attack.
And this sequence we just saw from Ian against a deck that had a better setup, against a deck that is more aggressive, this would actually be a bit too slow. But Ian is taking full advantage of the awkwardness from Calvin's opener. And now Marnie is the final chance to get back into the game. Draws 2 Arceus V and a big charm. We're assembling something here, Kyle.
Yeah, no energy just yet, and Drizzile surely doesn't want to go just grab an energy search. I don't even know if that's a card you would see in anything like this. Of course, maybe Capacious Bucket, but yeah, that's too slow. We got to go and think about next turn.
Considering it for just a second, is there a way? But yeah, just goes for the Professor's Oak. I like Professor's Oak, the Professor's Research. But there's a little bit of a time save here, right? While Calvin is shuffling the deck, just passes, just being a little bit more efficient. Ian's playing along. And I think that in a weird way, the fact that Calvin is still playing efficiently, trying to save time here and there, is preparing for game number 3. Is still sticking to the current game plan and is remaining confident that I can still win this game too.
Well, we'll see if that's the case. Ian slowing down. We see the POW pad thinking about that boss's orders for later in the game. Playing just the basic grass energy on the active is very slow. And this is bizarre when you see Ultra Ball in the opening turn and you don't see any counterplay on the second turn. No Arceus V-Star, just nothing really happening on Ian's side. Is this a bait?
Ian has been, again, had a strong setup, but it is very low tempo. And it's giving Calvin enough time to actually stabilize from a very nebulous position at the start of the game. And with the Professor Research coming through, drawing 7 cards, this is a very easy way to come back into it. Water Energy being manually attached here to the Arceus, but once again reconsidering Calvin fighting against his instincts to attach before fully evaluating the situation, still trying to find every line, not accidentally close a door here, goes for the Ultra Ball instead.
Well, I'd much rather have Calvin's hand, but who knows? Maybe Ian is just holding on to some really nice Beedrill setup cards, waiting to see the double turbo energy. That's got to be something on Calvin's mind too. You see the Ultra Ball played and then nothing really happening on the second turn. So the big mind games here. This is where you see the top players shine, and I'm very curious to see what Calvin finds here as the big play.
You want to maybe have something else you can pivot into, because once you take down this Dunsparce, you get 1 prize, but then Calvin gets to unleash whatever attacker is set up. And I wonder if Ian Robb is going to see how long this Dunsparce can remain stranded in the active until Calvin is forced to expend an energy to retreat it.
Do you think of scoop up net on the Dunsparce, play fast and go accelerate the energies?
I don't know. I don't know if Calvin can even get away with spending a scoop up net like that, because the Sobbles are prized. And so you need that to cycle your Drizziles. That would be, listen, that would be such an audacious line to say, I don't need Sobble and Drizzile. I just need to get my attacker into the active and try to capitalize on this potentially slow start. And you already said it, Kyle. Is this just some sort of incredibly high-level mind game where Calvin is now being lulled into a false sense of security? I had a bad start, but nothing bad happened to me. Maybe this game 2 is starting to go in my way, and then Ian is going to slam the trap shut.
Pass. Wow. Okay, yeah, I took a quick peek at the hand, only saw Beedrill. I don't know what else is going on in there, but it can't be good.
Calvin with a bit of a Star Chronos here, getting 2 turns in a row, drawing, attaching energy.
Who needs Dialga when your opponent can just stop playing the game?
And now with the evolution here, as the Starbirth can find these cards to jump out even further ahead, this was looking so doomed, and Ian Robb was not able to capitalize at all. What is going on over there? Just no Drizzile, no Evolution Incense, no Quick Ball? Like, what could these cards possibly be that there's nothing Ian Robb can do at all?
Yeah, there's no way that Calvin thought he'd be in a situation like this after his start, seeing his prize cards starting with a Dunsparce. And sure enough, what a setup here over on the other side for Calvin. And Ian's just going, yeah. Well, I really hope I can do something about this.
I wonder if there is a world, peering into the possible different futures from this point. There's a world where Ian Robb scoops and wants to save this full 18 minutes to go into a Game 3. Now that you had your good start, but you couldn't pivot into anything, you couldn't actually capitalize on your lead, Calvin Connor is getting so massively set up and is now ahead. Ian could just cut his losses here.
Definitely something to consider. 4-card hand for Ian, about to get absolutely walloped.
Probably just thinking, I want to see that last draw before I make my decision. Because with 3 Sobbles, the next draw could just completely open up this game for Ian Robb.
Right. We could see Training Court Air Balloon, Arceus V-Star, Drizzile, Beedrill, woo! But we could also see Game 3.
It's either Game 3 or the rest of Game 2 printed on the other side of this next top deck for Ian Robb.
Oh, Calvin grabbing the Starmie, thinking ahead. maybe Ian's only game plan could be to accelerate energies and just has to commit. So great backup plan there for Calvin to just always have that in mind. Easy to charge up. All you need is an energy and a Melanie, and you can get that Pokemon going.
Ian just teasing.
Brutal.
Yeah, there it is. The top deck wasn't what it was. We couldn't even get a really good look at Ian's hand. We can only speculate that the quality of the hand there is something that will live in infamy, completely unknown, and will only reveal itself in every Pokemon TCG player's worst nightmares. Going to Game 3, both players have a decent amount of time in the bank, so they could really give us the really strong back and forth showing that we're hoping to see here in NAIC.
Maybe Ian misread his hand at some point. The third Ultra Ball, or the Ultra Ball for the third Sobble, just seemed like something you do if you already have the evolutions in your hand.
Yeah.
So maybe that happened. Maybe he just thought that he had other cards going, or maybe just felt comfortable with the top of his deck. But sure enough, that just wasn't going to work out there. And Ian understands that, gives himself enough time now to maybe close things out. Looks like we're going to have about 15 minutes for this last game, and what a closer we could potentially have in this match with the Bees on one side and Calvin's consistency on the other.
Yeah, the Starmie V, still a wild card Pokemon that actually pressures Ian Robb from truly being able to develop multiple attackers the way Arceus wants to do. And as we head into the next game, if it is a slow start and both players are just working on Inteleon engine stuff rather than developing attackers early, it's going to look like this clock can get eaten up very, very fast. And once again, a mulligan for Calvin Connor. One Beedrill in the prize, one Grass Energy in the prizes. In beautiful positions, though. Like,
yeah,
if you
confused Beedrill, too.
The confused Beedrill. If you get, the one Beedrill knockout, and then you take two prizes, and then the two prizes are the second Beedrill, the second Grass Energy, in order to just replicate the forbidden back-to-back combo you did in the first game. Like, this is already shaping up to be a hilarious Game 3.
Well, you might need a Pokemon communication. That Beedrill has to be in the deck. So it's a bit of a problem to find it in your hand, and certainly the prize cards. But maybe a Marnie brings it back, and you're
that's
good.
the secret there. You get the Beedrill, and then you just mind control your opponent into playing Marnie.
There we go.
That's the true secret.
What a read. Yeah. Well, Calvin is going to prize double Drizzile, and maybe be off to another one of those awkward starts. Not for Ian, though. Energy down, double arc, Sobble. A great way to start things off here.
Off to a much better start, especially, again, going first. You have that extra time for Ian Robb, where you have the Arceus set up, and now the potential to immediately evolve double turbo into that Trinity charge, get that KO, and just use that tempo to snowball the game. And Calvin now jumping out with just Manaphy in the active is starting to build up a bench, but it's looking very rough just because Ian has an attacker that charges up the next attacker.
Yeah, Calvin plays a lot of cards that help him in the mid to late game. Cards like searching out with that Shady Dealings Inteleon. Everyone plays that. But Ordinary Rod can help you maybe save some of these lines. Manaphy and Dunsparce are great for in those certain matchups where you need to lock out on bench damage and the weakness on your Arceus V, but keeps finding all these cards at the wrong time. They're in his opening hand, and he'd much rather just see a nice clean setup like Ian, and instead he has to work so much harder to get the job done.
This was something we talked about, Kyle, where Arceus tempts you into running all of these techs because the Arceus V-Star and the Inteleon engine just give you the ability to find these cards when you need them, but they can still show up at the wrong time. And it's really, really coming back to haunt Calvin Connor here when we're in Game 3 of Swiss Round 5 and your deck is just working against you to such a degree. And there it is, the boss to snipe the Arceus V before it has a chance to maybe do anything effective, getting the acceleration onto the next attacker. Once again, Ian Robb respecting the Starmie, limiting the energy here, but still with the one attachment, you can just go for a second double turbo if need be. And if Calvin Connor cannot get an evolution, cannot pivot off of this Arceus V, his main attacker is going to go down and also cut off his ability to reach that Star Birth and get the cards that he requires to climb out from this hole that's being dug.
Yeah, you don't want to use Arceus V-Star Birth on a damaged Arceus with no energies. That sounds awful. You can maybe get something rolling and work on a secondary Arceus, but then do you even want to move those energies, get them accelerated onto a damaged Pokemon? This is such a weird spot to be in, and especially when Ian is providing such great aggression on the other side, you just think that maybe the only way that Calvin starts to get into a winning spot is by using those special energy cards exactly where Ian wants them.
The double turbo fork. You have to accelerate these energy to get your attackers up, and you're playing into my Beedrill. Has to go for the Star Birth on the damaged Arceus V-Star to find the double turbo, and the Drizzile going to go searching even more through the deck, but it's just not looking good from this position.
Well, Assurance Care is going to be the play here, going to potentially pick up this Arceus V. And the hand is going to be very reliant on that Inteleon, and this is something we spoke about earlier too, is if you get the read that this is a hand going nowhere, do you start targeting down the support line in that Inteleon engine?
That could be the line that salvages this game or just tries to close it out here in Game 3, because despite everything, Ian Robb looked to be massively favored in Game 2, and Calvin Connor was able to just get set up anyway. But now the shoe is on the other foot. Ian Robb is getting set up. Calvin Connor is struggling similarly to how he was in game number 2. And Ian Robb has yet to show off the flying Pikachu, which is still just another big attacker that can show up in an emergency.
Yep, maybe not considering it now. Just Arceus trading into Arceus seems pretty fair for him. Has the engine to keep up with this right now with the Sharon's Care, the POW pads. You can, if you're the one who's initiating the damage, you will most likely be the one who comes out on top. And why mess with that?
The Sharon's Care, just healing your Pokemon up, is what you need to buy yourself time. Like, normally this can be very devastating if your opponent is already behind. They're struggling to get a KO because they need something important that's prized, and the Sharon's Care lets you negate that, lets you disrupt that. But when you're using it just to stay in the game, to preserve your attacker, to hang on by a nail, like, this is not the way we normally see this powerful supporter be used.
Well, Ian has the perfect turn, going to be able to play down the entire hand, use that single strike mustard, get the one Beedrill, as the other is in the prize cards, out into play, and now has a perfect threat for an Arceus, where the Arceus deck has already used their Starbirth power. That is just so rough.
When we talked about Beedrill before, there's the surprise factor of the combo, putting it into the active, getting the KO when you want it. But then there is the pressure of it just sitting on the bench and then restricting the plays that you can go for. This Arceus V has the double turbo energy on it, but has to go into the active because Calvin Connor is so reliant on this Sobble in order to look through the deck to even find a line towards victory, that you have to give up this 2 prized Pokemon as a sacrifice.
Look at the disrespect to Starmie. What a turn to do it, too. This is a really great heads-up play by Ian. Just understands that if my opponent's going to get anything done, it's definitely not going to be with no water energies in the discard pile. Melanie Starmie shenanigans, that's just not in the cards for them right now. They're going to have to disrupt my hand. They're going to have to draw some really great cards off a card like Marnie, and that's right where I want to be. I got everything I want. Go ahead, give me a new hand, and let's see what's going on.
When you're already set up, the Marnie definitely stops affecting you. Anything in your deck is going to be useful when you don't need it. You just look at, and we saw it before, right? Where you just draw an attack. You don't even look at the card. That's all you care about. And now that Ian Robb has worked his way into this dominant position, we could certainly see the draw attack line just happen until Calvin Connor gives up the ghost here in game 3, and Ian is able to advance to a 5-0 record. But Calvin's hanging in there. He's sticking to his guns. Ordinary Rod puts the Inteleon back.
Yep, we got about 7 minutes left so far in this big game 3 here of the match. The Marnie is going to come down, and that's going to be Calvin's potential way out. Really needs to hope that Ian just doesn't start finding the right cards. Maybe there have been a lot of level balls used or ways to search out Pokemon, and Drizzile just isn't found. That is one way that you can make a comeback here.
If Ian Robb has to set up these 2-turn KOs, and Calvin already used the Sharon's Care, maybe there is a way to get more attackers up. The Starmie V, as you said, is in prime position to deal some significant damage as long as the rest of the hand here can support it. Finds the Collapse Stadium, has a couple water energy, just needs to go for the attachment here.
Yeah, a couple water energy, Palpad boss. I don't know if that's everything that Calvin needs to close out a match, and he might be a little disappointed in that Marnie.
Yeah, at the very least, I think that you want the Marnie to bail you out, but as long as you can maybe slow your opponent down ever so slightly, it might be enough. But it looks like the boss's orders just coming through. Palpad shuffling that back in. Air Balloon to retreat the Arceus. And so now another juicy target being set up here. Going to get KO'd.
Yep, just the benefit of having those basic energies on the Arceus means that you're dealing 230 damage, a number that is pretty nice in this format. A lot of 220 hit point V Pokemon that you can take out, and sure enough, 2 more added. Ian grabbing the Beedrill. Do we see the Marnie?
Finally gets access to the Beedrill. Second Marnie. Would be hilarious to shuffle that back in.
No.
But as soon as Ian Robb says it, you can just make use of this Beedrill, and this is where Calvin has to start. It's not even about, okay, I need to get an attacker set up. I have to take away my opponent's massive threat first. Boss's order on the Beedrill, Collapse Stadium, limiting the bench for both players. And now, once you take this, it's still 1 prize out of 6, and Ian Robb slowly closing in on victory. 2 Sobbles, though, on the bench. No Drizzile action really going on. So there's no threat of Aqua Bullet or anything to threaten these other benched Sobbles. So I have to, as a caster, give Calvin a little bit of credit here and say he's still in this game. But things are still looking very dire, and he's not out of the woods yet.
Yeah, Ian is going to have that Ultra Ball and could potentially find that Drizzile that we were talking of. Just hasn't been able to find it in the right time, or maybe just hasn't needed it, honestly. If you look at this setup, Ian's in a phenomenal spot. If there were a card like Sharon's Care to come down now, you don't have to worry about losing that Arceus V-Star in the active spot. We did already see Palpad going for double boss, so Ian certainly has his priorities lined up on taking away Pokemon at optimal times, not considering the healing effects in just now. But there we go. It does have that extra Sharon's Care there, so it's going to be cashing in on that. Just really wants to make the decision right now. What's the better line here? He could boss the Inteleon.
Boss the Inteleon, take that down. But nope, goes for the safe play. Just gets that damaged Pokemon out of the way. Doesn't want Calvin Connor to get any prizes. Maybe this is the read that Ian Robb has come away with based on Calvin Connor's lines and play. Says there must be something really important in the prizes, so I'm going to try to deny that as much as possible.
Yeah, this feels correct. Just remove the damage counters. There's no way that Calvin's going to be winning in a position like this if you just don't allow him to work that chip damage down and take that knockout. And sure enough, you're in a spot where you're pushing the aggression. You have that damage down now, and you've seen a lot of resources from Calvin. His setup is slower. He's already used Starbirth. He has 1 Sobble left. That's only 1 Shady Dealing potentially to get out of a really bad situation with a low hand size.
With Ian Robb also having the 2 Arceus working in tandem, you don't mind bringing that one back to your hand because it's very easy to reattach energy to it, get it powered up and ready to go. And Calvin now has to find a Starmie, I guess, to try to take advantage of the energy that is in play over on Ian Robb's side. Now that Sharon's Care was scooped up onto the Arceus, like there's less energy now for it to even take advantage of.
Yeah, Ian kind of playing around that, just doesn't worry about that. And this is a play that Ian was potentially thinking of. Maybe if he was able to have the boss's orders for later on. He could just remove this Arceus V from play right now, take a big knockout, and still leave 230 hit points on board. Instead, looks like not able to find the right top deck and is going to take the knockout here on the active.
Yep, draw and attack, basically. And with Ian Robb going down to 1 prize, what is Calvin Connors out? Roxanne or something?
Yeah, you have to think it starts with hand disruption, and maybe you find your way out, but this is not the best. I guess Big Charm does buy you a little bit of time, but we're just looking for a boss's orders.
There it is. Yep, the boss's orders. Then switch out using the air balloon, gets the KO, takes game number 3. Ian Robb able to recover from an incredibly slow and clunky game 2 and closes out the final game of the set with 1.5 minutes left on the clock.
Yeah, just great from both players, understanding the time crunch that they're in and trying to make sure that there was a resolution. Those 3 match points are so crucial. Ian was just flying.